Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Mega News at 6. My name is El Samuels on the top stories making headlines. Tonight, we look at it first.
Vacation trials can proceed. Supreme Court rules against Oppong Nkrumah. In business, Ghana loses millions from exporting raw shea nuts. And on the international front, Israel re-establishes closed West Bank settlement, defying international protests.
Tonight, we'll bring you the latest development in Ghana and the rest of the world. We'll also bring you update from the business, sports, and entertainment. Details of this story is coming to you live from our studios on the 10th Avenue Extension, Great Estate. We also live on our social media handles on MBN 360. We'll bring you the details after the break. In our first story, Ofuase Ayeribi MP Kojo Oppong Nkrumah says he may seek a review of the Supreme Court decision dismissing his application to hold the selected criminal trials during the legal vacation.
The Supreme Court has dismissed an application filed by former Information Minister and Ofuase Ayeribi MP Kojo Oppong Nkrumah challenging the decision to proceed with his trial during the court's vacation. Mr. Oppong Nkrumah had objected to the hearing of the case during the vacation period, raising concerns over whether the proceedings could properly continue at that time. But in its ruling, the Supreme Court held that vacation does not prevent the courts from hearing cases where circumstances warrant it. The ruling therefore means the trial can proceed despite the courts being on vacation. The decision is significant because it addresses the broader question of whether ongoing criminal proceedings can be scheduled during the judicial vacation. The Supreme Court's ruling now removes the legal hurdle raised by the application and allows the lower court's proceedings to continue. Kojo Oppong Nkrumah, who served as Information Minister under the previous administration, has been facing legal proceedings in a case that has attracted considerable public and political attention. The latest ruling does not, however, determine the substantive issues in the case itself. It is focused on the question of whether the trial can proceed during the court's vacation. The case is therefore expected to return to the trial court for further proceedings. The ruling reinforces the principle that the court's vacation does not automatically bring all judicial proceedings to a halt, particularly where the court considers it necessary for a matter to proceed.
Remarks, and then I'll let Senior Frank address you in detail. The court has dismissed our injunction application, but in the ruling, some very interesting pronouncements have been made. For the first time, the courts have admitted that some cases have been treated differently. Those are the words of the judge. They are being treated differently and expeditiously. Why? He doesn't say so. But then he proceeds to say that, in his opinion, that will not amount to a violation of the constitutional articles that we have raised in this particular matter, and that he thinks that that will even be in the interest of the accused persons. We've asked for a certified copy so that we can peruse it some more, and then on the advice of counsel, we'll take the next steps.
When you come to court, with an anticipatory mind. When you have an injunction application, whatever application you have before the court, it either will be refused or will be granted. So yes, the judge has made a determination. It is not in our place as lawyers to condemn the judge. We can only critique. The plaintiff has told you in very short terms his understanding of what happened in the courtroom. So we will abide the ruling of the court for now. We are not given to say the things other lawyers say when decisions of the court are handed and doesn't go in their favor. We will not repeat those chants because they don't sit in our usual lexicon as lawyers. So yes, we accept the ruling of the court for now. We have applied for a certified true copy of the ruling, which the registrar has promised so to do. But I insisted that we have the ruling by 2 p.m. So we shall apply for, when the ruling is handed to us, we shall read in detail the reason ruling and appropriately advise our client.
Away from the Supreme Court, the Controller and Accountant General's Department, CAGD, has directed all public institutions close a bank account that has not been duly approved and to regularize their banking arrangement in line with government financial management rules.
The Deputy Minister says artificial intelligence could help Ghana improve the way patients are diagnosed and treated while making healthcare more accessible. AI is already being used in parts of the world to support doctors with medical imaging, disease detection, and the analysis of patient data. But the Deputy Minister says Ghana needs stronger partnerships if it is to make similar technologies work effectively within its health system. The proposed collaboration would bring together government agencies, technology firms, health professionals, and researchers to develop solutions suited to local needs. The focus, the Deputy Minister says, should not only be introducing new technology, but also on training health workers and improving the digital infrastructure needed to support it. There are, however, concerns about how sensitive medical information would be protected as more health services become digital. Experts say clear rules on data protection, patients' privacy, and the ethical use of AI will be important as Ghana expands its use of the technology. The government says partnerships with the private sector and research institutions could help Ghana build the skills and systems needed to take advantage of AI in healthcare. The Deputy Minister is urging stakeholders to move from discussion to practical collaboration as the country looks to technology to address some of its long-standing healthcare challenges. The call comes as countries around the world explore how artificial intelligence can be used to improve healthcare while managing the risks that come with the technology.
Away from the health story, the government says works to revive the Star Saglame housing project is progressing with 700 homes housing units expected to be ready by March and a further 800 units targeted for completion by December 2027.
The Saglime housing project, which has remained largely unfinished for years, has been revived as the government seeks to put the development back into use. Authorities say 700 housing units are expected to be ready by March. A further 800 units are expected to be completed by December 2027, bringing the total number of units targeted under the current phase to 1,500. The project, located in the Greater Accra region, was originally intended to help address Ghana's housing deficit. But the development became the subject of controversy after thousands of homes were left unfinished, with questions raised over the cost of the project and the circumstances surrounding its construction. Successive governments have explored ways of completing and putting the facilities to use. The latest revival plan is intended to ensure that the existing infrastructure does not continue to deteriorate while providing much needed accommodation. The government says the work will focus on completing the unfinished structures and making the necessary infrastructure available for residents. The project has also featured prominently in discussions about public spending, with calls for greater accountability over how much has already been spent and what will be required to complete it. For potential residents, the key issue now is whether the latest timetable can be met. The government is targeting March for the first 700 completed units. The Saglime project has been on the government's agenda for years. The latest plan puts a new completion timetable on the development, but questions remain over funding, delivery, and how the completed homes will be allocated.
I emphasize what has been said. You can see the beautiful montage behind me. This is how it's going to look when you come back at the end of next year. As the developer said, 700 units by March next year will be able to commission, and another 1,000, actually total of 1,500 by end of next year, by December next year. This was a vision that was started by Professor Atta Mills, and I came and continued it. Unfortunately, when government changed hands, there were some issues, legal issues, and the new government said they wanted to investigate, and so in the meantime the project stalled. Now the unfortunate thing that happened was, looters came in and stole everything, the cables, the wash basins, the baths, all the fittings, electricals, bulbs. They even took the telecom cables from underground and pulled them away and took them. And so it just left an empty shell. And eventually the government agreed that the private sector should partner to finish it, and LMI were choosing to do it. You can see what it's going to look like when this place is finished. It's going to be a very conducive housing estate. We have a big housing program coming out, and it will be announced by the finance minister in the new budget. Already the Works and Housing Ministry is working on the district housing scheme. The finance minister provided 500 million cedis in this year's budget, and so this year they'll start rolling out some of those district houses in selected districts, and there again it will be the beginning of a new housing vision that this government wants to roll out over the next 4 years.
Away from the Saglame housing project, the President John Dramani Mahama is expected to open the 2026 APQA conference in Accra, bringing together health professionals, policymakers to discuss ways of improving patient safety and healthcare standards across Africa.
President John Dramani Mahama is due to open the 2026 conference of the African and Mediterranean Conference of Orthopedics and Related Health Professionals, AMQA. The conference brings together medical practitioners, policymakers, researchers, and other stakeholders to discuss challenges facing healthcare delivery and ways of improving patient safety. One of the central issues is how African countries can strengthen healthcare systems while responding to growing demands for better and safer medical services. Patient safety remains a major concern for health systems nationwide, with preventable errors, inadequate infrastructure, and shortages of skilled personnel among the challenges facing some countries. The conference is expected to provide a platform for professionals to share research, experiences, and approaches that could improve standards of care. For Ghana, the gathering also offers an opportunity to highlight developments within the country's health sector and discuss areas where further investment and collaboration are needed. President Mahamad's participation is expected to underline the government's commitment to improving healthcare quality and strengthening professional partnerships across the continent. Organizers say the conference will also focus on innovation, skills development, and closer cooperation among African health professionals. As countries across the continent work to expand access to healthcare, the emphasis is increasingly shifting towards ensuring that the care provided is not only accessible but safe and of a consistently high standard. The conference is expected to run through discussions on patient safety, medical practice, and healthcare innovation, with participants looking for practical ways to improve outcomes for patients across Africa.
The broader focus of the African Health Sovereignty Initiative, the impact of it in our country, leading to a reset agenda in terms of our health sector policies, which of course for us as regulators, we focus on the regulatory component of it.
Yeah.
And then of course the global recognition of the impact of this. So we have also undertaken, under the leadership of the Honorable Minister, several regulatory innovations. And this is a great opportunity for us to share these great things that are happening in our country with the rest of Africa and the world. But also, we are noted for our democratic stability, isn't it? And we pride ourselves as the gateway to Africa.
Yeah.
Then, more pointedly, we have the Ghanaian hospitality. So it's also an opportunity to showcase our country, the diversity and the richness of our cultures. And because of that, we have had a wonderful historic programming where we will provide complimentary tour guide around our city, Nationalism Park. We go to the former seat of the government, and ultimately we converge at the Kwame Nkrumah Museum for them to have an experience of the African story and our role in the emancipation of Black people across the world. Yes, so as we speak now, I expect that in a couple of hours, the first attendees will be touching down. But the conference, and it tells you how people are excited to come to Ghana. But the conference itself starts on 23rd, which is Sunday, with a cocktail where we'll be treating them to rich Ghanaian experience and hospitality. And then we go into the scientific components from the Monday 24th, where we have been privileged to have His Excellency the President, confirm that he will do us the honors by opening the conference. And that will be the first time, ceremony and things like that. We'll have a sitting president come to an annual conference of AMCOA and to open it.
Now, moving on to some education story, Ghana's Deputy Education Minister says responsible for school safety will be held accountable if systems designed to protect students fail.
The Deputy Education Minister says the government will not tolerate failures in systems meant to keep students safe in schools. The warning comes as authorities continue to focus on safety and security within educational institutions. The Deputy Minister says responsibility for protecting students extends beyond teachers and school authorities to all institutions and officials tasked with ensuring that safety measures are properly implemented. The government says schools must have effective systems for identifying risks, responding to emergencies, and protecting students from harm. The Deputy Minister has also stressed the need for school authorities to take safety protocols seriously and ensure that concerns are reported and addressed promptly. The comments come amid wider concerns about the safety of children in schools and whether existing safeguards are strong enough to prevent incidents and protect vulnerable students. Education authorities are expected to work with school managers and other stakeholders to identify weaknesses and strengthen safety measures. The Deputy Minister says accountability will be an important part of that process. Officials found to have neglected their responsibilities could face consequences if failures in school safety systems are established. For parents and guardians, the issue goes beyond academic performance, with growing expectations that schools should provide an environment where children can learn safely. The Deputy Minister says improving school safety will require not only clear policies but also effective implementation and accountability when those systems fail.
And to indicate that the matter at hand is one that has gravely worried the minister and myself. As the sector ministry, we have oversight responsibility over all our agencies and their conduct. And so the minister instructed me to issue the statement. We are aware of the statement that was earlier issued by the GES, but we felt that as a ministry, we needed to come out and state very clearly how we feel about the situation and to give specific directives, because truly, we do not find it acceptable that a 14-year-old girl who is on record as a student with special needs is victimized by two adult watchmen or security guards, and then on top of that, she is being deboardinized. And we thought that clearly cannot be acceptable. That cannot be the way to resolve the matter. So I can tell you that we are going to take very firm action. We believe this is an indication of a failure on the part of the Regional Directorate of Education in Upper East, a failure on the part of the Municipal Directorate, and clearly the management of the school has failed this young girl, and we will not tolerate that. I am indicating a failure all the way from the school to the Regional Directorate. Matters of this nature ought to have been immediately conveyed to the Director General of the Ghana Education Service. You don't sit around with matters of this nature. No, we won't tolerate it. So, indiscipline would not be tolerated at any level of the structure.
Now, away from the education sector, there's some medical story where the Chief Executive Officer of Mercy Ship has welcomed the organization's return to Ghana as its hospital ship arrives at the Tema port to provide specialist medical care and surgical services.
The Chief Executive Officer of Mercy Ships has praised Ghana's decision to welcome the organization back to the country. The hospital ship has arrived at Tema Port as part of efforts to provide specialist health care, including surgical procedures, to people who may otherwise struggle to access such services. Mercy Ships operates hospital vessels that provide medical care and train local health professionals in countries where access to specialist treatment is limited. The organization's return is expected to support Ghana's health system through specialized surgeries, medical training, and knowledge sharing with local healthcare workers. The partnership also provides an opportunity for Guinean medical professionals to work alongside international specialists and gain experience in complex procedures. The visit comes as Ghana continues to face challenges, including the cost of specialist healthcare and unequal access to medical services. For Mercy Ships, the focus is on reaching patients in need while strengthening local capacity so that the benefits extend beyond the organization's stay. The organization's CEO says the return to Ghana reflects the importance of collaboration between international medical organizations and national health systems. Authorities say the initiative will complement existing efforts to improve access to quality health care. The Mercy Ships program is expected to combine direct medical care with training and capacity building, with the aim of leaving a lasting impact on Ghana's healthcare system.
And those are the major stories making headlines tonight. Now, let's turn our attention to the business sector with the latest development shaping Ghana's economy and the market. Details of this story standing by Esna Dedegogo right after the break.
Let me introduce you to Farm Global Company Limited. At Farm Global, we offer you variety of groceries and provisions to choose from. Cosmetics, perfumes, bed sheets, undies, boxes, you can mention all. This is our perfume stand, and we have variety of perfumes you can choose from for yourself and your loved ones. We cover Latafa, fragrance world, and quality perfumes that will last long on your body. On our cosmetic section, we have variety of lotions, creams, hair pomade that can keep you going. You let your feet do the talking and your hand do the showcasing. Your babies are not left out. We got you covered. At Farm Global, we make shopping a beautiful experience for you and your family. You can be at home, send your list and get it delivered for free. Yes, for free. We know you can pay for it, but we want to show appreciation. We bring everything to you at your doorstep. Locate Farm Global on the Nungwabuade Road, just opposite Redeemer Chemist. Call us on 0592 0999 52 or 050 384 3633. Farm Global, fast, reliable, and convenient.
Welcome back from that break. You're still watching Mega News at 6 p.m. and this is the business news with me, Nade Degogo. In business, Ghana is losing millions of dollars in potential revenue by exporting raw shea nuts instead of processing more of the commodity locally, industry stakeholders say.
Ghana is one of the major producers of shea nuts in West Africa, but much of the commodity is exported in its raw form, limiting the value the country can earn from the global shea industry. Industry stakeholders say Ghana could generate significantly more revenue by processing shea nuts into butter, cosmetics, food ingredients, and other finished products before exports. The shea industry also supports the livelihoods of thousands of people, particularly women involved in collecting and processing the nuts in northern Ghana. But producers and processors face challenges including limited access to finance, inadequate processing facilities, and difficulties accessing international markets. The export of raw commodities has long been a concern for Ghana's economy, with policymakers calling for greater investment in local processing and manufacturing. Adding value to shea could create more jobs, increase export earnings, and strengthen the position of Ghanaian businesses in the international market. The issue is also linked to wider efforts to move Ghana's economy away from dependence on exporting unprocessed natural resources. Industry players are therefore calling for policies that encourage local processing while improving access to technology, finance, and reliable markets. For communities that depend on shea production, increased local processing could also mean more opportunities to earn from the commodity. The challenge is now to turn Ghana's position as a producer of shea nuts into greater value at home rather than exporting the raw material and leaving much of the profits to processors elsewhere.
Still in business, Ghana's $15.59 billion in Eurobond borrowing has been identified as a major contributor to the country's debt crisis, raising renewed questions about how successive governments manage the funds and accumulate public debt.
Ghana borrowed about $15.59 billion through Eurobond issuances over the years as successive governments turned to international capital markets to finance public spending and development programs. But the borrowing came at a significant cost. As debt levels increased and the economy came under pressure, Ghana faced growing difficulties in meeting its debt obligations. The country eventually defaulted on most of its external debt in December 2022, triggering a major debt restructuring program. The debt crisis also contributed to Ghana seeking support from the International Monetary Fund. The Eurobond borrowing has since become a subject of intense debate, with questions over whether the funds were used for productive investments capable of generating enough economic returns to service the debt. Critics argue that excessive borrowing, coupled with weak fiscal management, contributed to the deterioration of Ghana's public finances. The issue has also raised broader questions about accountability and whether governments should face greater scrutiny when contracting large amounts of external debt. Government officials have, however, argued that some of the borrowing was necessary to finance infrastructure and other national priorities, while economic shocks and rising interest costs worsened the country's debt position. Ghana has since undertaken a debt restructuring program aimed at restoring debt sustainability and reducing pressure on government finances. The experience has renewed calls for stronger controls over public borrowing, greater transparency in the use of borrowed funds, and a clearer link between debt and economic productivity. The debate over Ghana's Eurobond borrowing is therefore not only about how much was borrowed, but also what the money achieved, how the debt was managed, and who should ultimately be held accountable for the crisis.
That's all for today on the business segment. Up next is sports and entertainment with Wendy Lati.
MBN Jasu nie from me Ejahima. So pesa uba MBN Jasua from me 0245 88 2128. MBN Jasu come home na yendi eja at the right place.
Welcome back from the break. You're still watching Mega News at 6 on MBN TV, and I'm Wendy Lati. Now, in the world of sports, Ghana midfielder Thomas Partey has officially joined Saudi Pro League side Al Shabab, bringing his time in European football to an end after a career that included spells with Atletico Madrid and Arsenal.
Ghana international Thomas Partey has completed his move to Saudi Arabian club Al Shabab. The midfielder joined Saudi Pro League side after leaving English Premier League club Arsenal. Partey spent 5 seasons at Arsenal after joining the London club from Atletico Madrid in 2020. During his time in England, he made more than 100 appearances for Arsenal and was part of the squad that challenged for major domestic honours. Before moving to Arsenal, Partey established himself at Atletico Madrid, where he developed into one of the leading midfielders in European football. The 32-year-old remains an important figure for Black Stars, having earned more than 50 international caps. His move to Saudi Arabia comes as a growing number of established international players continue to join clubs in Saudi Pro League. For Partey, the transfer represents a new chapter of his club career, while Ghana will be hoping he remains fit and influential for the Black Stars. The midfielder's experience will be particularly important as Ghana continues preparations for upcoming international assignments. Thomas Partey now begins a new chapter with Al Shabab, with the Ghana international expected to bring his experience and midfield leadership to the Saudi Pro League.
And now in entertainment, Ghanaian dancehall musician Stonebwoy is set to premiere the official music video for his latest song, Wake Up, on YouTube tonight.
Ghanaian musician Stonebwoy is preparing to release the official music video of his song, Wake Up. The video is scheduled to premiere on YouTube tonight, giving fans the opportunity to watch the official interpretation of the track for the first time. Stonebwoy, one of Ghana's leading dancehall and Afrobeat artists, has built an international following with music that blends Ghanaian sound with contemporary African and global influences. The release adds to his growing catalogue of music and visual projects as he continues to expand his audience beyond Ghana. Fans have been anticipating the video, with the premiere expected to generate attention across social media and music platforms. The musician has also maintained a strong presence on the international music scene, performing at major events and collaborating with artists from different parts of the world. The Wake Up video is expected to give fans a new visual experience while complementing the theme and energy of the song. Stonebwoy's Wake Up music video premieres on YouTube tonight, with fans expected to follow the release online and across social media.
That's it for today on sports and entertainment. Coming up is the foreign news with El Samuels.
Welcome back from the business, sports and entertainment segment of the Mega News at 6. That was brought to you from the latest development from the rest of the world. Now we turn our attention to beyond our borders as we bring you the latest development from around the world. It is time for the international news, where Israel re-established a Jewish settlement in occupied West Bank despite growing international opposition to settlement expansion in the Palestinian territory.
Israel has re-established a Jewish settlement in the occupied West Bank in a move that has drawn further international criticism. The settlement, known as Homesh, was among several settlements evacuated by Israel in 2005 under a plan that removed Jewish settlers from parts of the northern West Bank. Israeli authorities later changed legislation allowing settlers to return to areas that had been evacuated. The latest move comes as Israel faces growing international pressure over its policies in the occupied Palestinian territories. Most of the international community considers Israeli settlements in the West Bank illegal under international law, a position rejected by Israel. The Israeli government has argued that Jewish communities have historical and security claims to the area. Palestinian officials have condemned settlement expansion, saying it undermines prospects for an independent Palestinian state. The West Bank has been under Israeli military occupation since the 1967 Arab-Israeli War. More than 700,000 Israeli settlers now live in the West Bank and East Jerusalem, areas Palestinians claim as part of a future state. The issue remains one of the most contentious aspects of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. International organizations and several governments have repeatedly called for a halt to settlement expansion, warning that continued construction could make a negotiated two-state solution increasingly difficult. The latest development is likely to intensify the dispute over settlements as international pressure grows for Israel to halt expansion in the occupied West Bank.
Away from the Middle East, we go straight away to Nigeria in West Africa, where communities in Nigeria are mourning after an overloaded boat capsized, killing dozens of people and leaving families to bury their loved ones.
Villagers in Nigeria have been burying victims of a boat accident that has left communities devastated. The vessel was reportedly carrying more passengers than it could safely accommodate when it capsized. Local residents and emergency workers joined efforts to search for survivors and recover bodies after the accident. Families gathered to identify and bury those who died as the full scale of the tragedy became clearer. Witnesses described scenes of grief and desperation as relatives waited for news of passengers who had been on board. Boat accidents are a recurring problem in parts of Nigeria, particularly along rivers where boats are an important means of transport for communities. Overloading, poor safety equipment, and inadequate enforcement of maritime regulations have been blamed for many such accidents. Authorities have faced repeated calls to improve safety standards, including enforcing passenger limits and ensuring boats are properly equipped. The latest disaster has again raised questions about whether enough is being done to prevent avoidable deaths on Nigeria's waterways. For the affected families, however, the immediate priority is mourning those who have died and supporting survivors. The tragedy has renewed calls for tougher enforcement of safety regulations on Nigeria's waterways, where boat travel remains essential for many communities.
And that brings us to the end of this evening's Mega News at 6. But before we take leave of you, a recap of the stories making headlines.
Vacation trials can proceed. Supreme Court rules against Upon Nkrumah. In business, Ghana loses millions from exporting raw shea nuts. And on the international front, Israel re-establishes closed West Bank settlement, defying international protests.
Thank you for staying with us as we brought you the major stories from Ghana and around the world, along with business, sports, and entertainment. I am El Samuels from the entire team. Thank you for watching. Have a pleasant evening. Join us again next time for more news updates. Good evening.